Hi everyone, today we have something really interesting, really fascinating. It's a cool looking phone, but I'm a little bit skeptical of it. You can see it right here. This is in the monitor. This is the appassionato phone, which means enthusiast when you translate from Italian to English. And this phone comes from TRI, Touring Robotics Industries. The phone is very unique. It looks great, but like I said, I'm skeptical about the whole thing, and we'll get into that a little later in the show. It's up for a big challenge, right? This is a phone playing in the $1,600 range. It comes with a concierge service, so it's going up against past history with the Virtu phone and other phones that had concierge services that didn't pan out so well. You know, there's always the Apples, the Samsungs, and the Googles of the world that no matter what kind of phone you are, you're going up head to head with them too. So let's zoom into the monitor here and take a closer look at the phone itself, because I want to show you the back of this phone. That's what's really unique and special about the hardware itself. You can see this is like a blue feather design, and depending on the model that they sell you, you'll have a little bit of a different design. This is, just to know, a early prototype version of the phone, slated to come out by the end of the year. And you can see it's sort of a bird feather pattern. It looks really nice. It changes in the light. It looks really great in the sun. Depending on how you hold it up, you can see different colors here. You see their logo on the bottom, and you see the camera with the metal ring around it, and below is a standard fingerprint scanner on the back. So yes, another phone with a fingerprint scanner on the back. And I know I'm going to get a lot of questions about this, so I'll just answer it up front. What's the deal with Apple and Touch ID and their fingerprint sensor? Well, for this year, they're going to be focusing on that 3D facial scanner we reported about on the front of the phone, and I'd be very surprised to see a Touch ID sensor on the back. I don't think it's going to happen. The facial recognition is going to be the focus, because the experience of having a fingerprint scanner on the back of the phone, is sometimes difficult. It might be too big for you to be able to reach your hand behind there in order to scan the fingerprint sensor. It's a little bit cumbersome. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this metal that's around here too. And you can see the metal design around here. It's very shiny. It's very bright. Why is that? Well, it uses a material, according to the company, which is called liquid metal. And for those who have been following Apple for a while, you can see that this liquid metal frame is something that they've been experimenting with. If you have one of the old Apple, SIM eject tools, the paperclip-like devices to pop out your SIM card, it's that same shiny metal material. And it's made with a special manufacturing process to be this shiny. It involves, freezing metal from liquid. It's a very high-end material, and they say this is their own special alloy of liquid metal. So it looks very nice. It's really shiny. It adds a new element to the design, and the contrast between the back, the shiny back, and almost feels ceramic-like, not really metal or glass, but more ceramic-y, with the liquid metal shiny edges is a really nice touch. And you again, you get that around the camera sensor, the ring, around the lens itself too, around the flash. The buttons are made from the same material. The buttons on this prototype device, are a little bit, difficult to tap, and they're sort of popping out a little bit. It's definitely not a manufactured, finished phone, but it is there, and it's a good idea of what to expect from the phone down the road. And we'll get a little bit into the company's past history with a comparison between how their previously announced phones and what the actual shipping models turned out to look like. But I want to dive first a little bit into the operating system. You can press this button on the side to turn the phone on, and you can see it's a standard Android interface, but they have a skin, basically their own user interface design, their own wallpapers and icons on top to really, make the phone look more like theirs, the TRI design. And you can use your fingerprint to open the phone. It's actually pretty quick, but again, it's hit or miss, but obviously this is still an early design. And you can see the interface here. I'll put the phone down so we can take a look. You can see the icons. They're circular. It's their general interface, but it has the standard Android mechanics. So you can swipe down from the top. Well, I didn't mean to do that, but you can see this is the, the screen to change what apps you have on which pages. But if you scroll down from the top, you have the notifications panel, and you can get quick settings here. You can jump into more general settings with that button there. We have the standard control area that Android has on all phones. You have the Phone Guard app, which is an app that measures your phone security, your music app, your standard Google apps like the calendar, messaging, Google Chrome, and the phone. But the main feature here, the entree in terms of software and service for this phone, is something called the Sir Alan concierge, right? This concierge, you click this button right here, And Sir Alan is basically a concierge-like service. If you have an American Express card or if you're familiar with the Virtu concierge service, it's pretty much similar. You can call in and you can ask the concierge for pretty much anything. I've tested the concierge in the past, but I think the best thing we can do right now, it'll be a little fun. Why don't we call the concierge service live? They say it's open 24 hours, so let's give them a call. I'll put it on speaker and I'll repeat what they're saying so you can hear it more clearly. And we can talk to them and see what they have to say today. So let me put the volume up. And right now it's playing its Sir Alan fancy music or whatnot. It says we'll be assisted momentarily. Last time I called, it took a couple minutes to answer. It's telling me now that it's going to be monitored for quality assurance. So let's see. Hopefully they answer shortly. But, I'll note last time I called them, I actually, as a joke, obviously. Oh, here they are answering.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Is this Mr. Gurman?
Yes, hi. This is Mark.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome to Sir Alan Concierge. How are you?
Hi, you're live on the Bloomberg Gadgets with Gurman Tech Product Show. Is that okay?
Yeah, that sounds cool.
Cool.
Thanks for having us on the show.
Yeah, thanks for participating. So I wanted to order an airplane to Hawaii again. Remember we did that, I think that was with you last week, right?
Right.
So how much would it cost us to, go to Hawaii tomorrow on a 767 private jet just for me?
Well, I have to check the rate again. It was $385,000.
$385,000.
Friday. Right, and
Yeah.
that was a Friday.
That was a Friday.
And right, we have to take into consideration if there's repositioning costs and crew costs. And I won't be able to give you the quote right now on the telephone for the sake of the show.
Sure.
But I can send you a quote like we did last time. It's a matter of finding the available aircraft.
Sure. So that is theoretically something that you would be able to do.
We have done it.
You have done it.
We have done it. Yes.
Okay. What are some other interesting, fun things that people have called into the concierge asking for?
Oh gosh, that's a great one. Ferrari broke down outside of Ankara, Turkey, and the caller needed, it was about 2 in the morning, and he needed to talk to someone in English because he doesn't speak Turkish. And so we spoke with that gentleman, and he was a little bit concerned, but we found a person to get him, actually go pick him up off that highway in Ankara, leaving the Ferrari for later, and arranging for a company at quite a substantial cost to transport the Ferrari back.
So for those who,
there's lots of fun ones. What kind of requests interest you?
well, I just want to tell the audience, for those who didn't hear that. So for those who didn't hear that, someone was stuck in Turkey, and they had a Ferrari at 2 in the morning that they needed to be picked up, but they needed to speak someone in English, and Sir Alan was able to organize that. But thank you so much for your time. That's all the time we have here for that. So that was a little peek for everyone into Sir Alan. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for calling Sir Alan Concierge, and place a summer travel request with us anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gurman. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye. So that was a little peek into the Sir Alan Concierge service. I'm sure there's all sorts of wild things that you can think to ask them. And for those asking, we have some questions coming in here. What are the coolest features in your opinion? Well, my answer for that would be Sir Alan. This is the only differentiating factor on the phone. Now, the pitch of the company is that this costs $500 a year, so $1,000 over the first 2 years, and you get the phone for free. That's what TRI is saying. Their original press release announcement of the phone said that the phone would be $1,600. And I want to dive a little bit more into Sir Alan. You can see your requests. So this is, okay, Sir Alan has stopped working. It's a little buggy still, obviously. But you can jump in, and it should say, let's see if it works now. Okay, maybe they didn't like that I called in, but what it would do is show you your past requests, and it gives you a little bit of a menu here so you can jump between different types of topics. You can also email them. They do it over the email account that comes with the phone. There are some suggestions and places to go here. Another question coming in here is, how much is the phone? Yes, so it's $1,000, they say, for the first 2 years with the concierge service only. The phone itself, $1,600, but you can't buy it right now in general, but you won't be able to buy it at launch if it comes out, and we'll get a little bit into the why I say if later, for $1,600. Why is it so expensive? Because of the materials, the custom artwork on the back. You can see here this bird feather logo. It looks really nice. The liquid metal, the high-end steel and metal materials that's used, the sapphire crystal and whatnot. But yes, it's very expensive, and I don't really think people are going to want to spend that kind of money on a phone. If someone wants a concierge service for $500 a year, it could be compelling, right? But again, I'm a little bit skeptical of the whole thing, to be honest. And just because you're able to afford it, I don't think this is something you need. If you want those types of services, there's lower cost ways to do that, whether that's through a credit card or an app that you can get on an iPhone or a Samsung or a Pixel phone. Another question coming in here, and let's zoom out and take a look at the phone as well while we answer these questions. And the question coming in here, how's the video camera quality? Well, the video camera and the camera for taking still pictures, it's not finished yet, but there's some cool standard Android features in there. If you open it up, you can see it actually looks just like the iPhone interface for swiping between different photos. You have video, slow-mo, pano, and whatnot. And if you're familiar with the iOS 7 and forward camera application, this will look very familiar to you. And another person asking, I said it's buggy, how so? Well, it's buggy in the sense that this is still a prototype phone. The software sometimes crashes on you. It's hard to boot up. But this phone is not shipping for several months toward the end of the year. They told me November, December time frame before Christmas. So it's going to take a bit before the phone is up to par and not as buggy. Another question, do you think the name of the phone will appeal to U.S. buyers? That's a good question. I hadn't thought about that. I don't see why not. A lot of people like the cool European names on the phones. It's a cool thing these days. But I want to dive a little bit into the phone's past issues. Now, while this looks really cool, it's a fancy design, a cool scan over the OS, the Sir Alan feature, I have to note that this is not the first time that Turing and the people behind Turing have put cool-looking phones with great specs out on the market, with releasing them after several months delay or not releasing them at all. They had a phone that came out last year. It was supposed to come out maybe a little bit over a year ago. It looked really cool. It had sort of a modular design to it, squared-off design where you could add new features and specs over time. And that phone was supposed to ship with Android, right? That's the ubiquitous software operating system on many phones outside of the iPhone these days. But it actually shipped with a China-based OS called Sailfish. So not only the phone was several months delayed, but it didn't ship with the operating system, the main entree of the phone that it was supposed to. It ended up doing Sailfish. Another thing to note is that the company says this phone is designed in Finland. And you can see on the back, and let's zoom in here so you can take a look at the labeling on the back. It says design in Finland, you can see at the bottom there, right, and made in China. So design in Finland, I asked the company, why is it considered design in Finland? And they said because the designer is Finnish and is based in Finland for some time. So it's not exactly like how Apple says designed in California, Cupertino, California, because they have their whole design team there and all their people there. But the made in China, I actually spoke to TCL, who is the manufacturer of this device, yesterday. Spoke to some executives there, and they confirmed that they are working with Turing on manufacturing the phone in China. And TCL is known for building some phones out of China and doing the manufacturing, including the Nokia 3350 that we featured on the phone earlier in the series of the show. So they are known for manufacturing devices. They've done a good job with it, so maybe working with them will fix the past issues. And additionally, some people reached out after we started talking about this phone, and we were skeptical to say that they didn't receive the original phone in the end. But it seems like this company is turning things around, and they call this phone their comeback phone. And it seems like, or they say, they're ready to move on from their past issues and jump into something that actually works and will ship. So we'll see later this year if this phone ships on time. I hope it will. I'm really curious to see how many people buy this phone because of the concierge. I don't really see another reason to buy the phone. Maybe at some point they'll turn it into an app with their custom preferences and whatnot for other phones. Another question coming in here. is that the same liquid metal that Apple is working on? So the liquid metal question is referring to these steel shiny edges for those just joining us and around the camera. And that is a high-end material that, yes, Apple has patents for, and I believe licensed some patents. Apple hasn't really used this so far as we know in any of their consumer devices, but they've actually used that material, and you can see around the camera. It's very shiny. It's really nice. It feels very solid. And they've used it on some things like the SIM eject tool that comes with the phone. Another question coming in here, and this is actually a really good question. How are people already using Sir Alan if the phone hasn't been released yet? Well, the way I believe these concierge services works, ranging from the credit card companies to different apps, is that a company is able to license an existing concierge service and pay them so when they know you're calling from a Sir Alan phone, that they answer the phone saying this is Sir Alan. So it's very possible the concierge who we spoke to was referring to past instances of other people calling from other phones or other concierge services that tap into the same call center. Does that make sense? I think that's exactly what they're doing because, like you said, this is not out yet. I'm one of the first people to have these phones in our hands. In fact, I think we're the first to be actively testing it. Another question coming in here, how do you think Sir Alan will work when people start buying the phone and thousands of people are calling? Maybe that's optimistic that thousands of people will be calling into the Sir Alan service, but I assume if this thing takes off, they'll just adjust their call center preferences and hire more people for the Sir Alan part of the general concierge call center that Touring has hired or licensed out or contracted to work on this. Now I want to dive a little bit more into the interface and show you a few other things. So I'm going to unlock the phone again. Now you have this button on the side, and I haven't set this up yet, but if you hold down, it'll take you into Sir Alan, but I believe if you hold down even longer, or if you set it as your preference, you can get Google Assistant on here. So they're open to both. And Sir Alan doesn't have any AI in it. You can't use your voice or Google Assistant to control Sir Alan, but what you can do is get a software update when this phone comes out, if it comes out over time, and they'll integrate some new AI features into Google Assistant to handle Sir Alan. Another feature that Touring has really promoted on their past phones, the one that I talked about with the delays, the one that some people never received, is this encryption software that really secures the phone. So there's an app on here called Phone Guard, which tells you about viruses, if your phone is vulnerable or not. It shows you how much storage you've used, and for those asking storage on here, it says 106.6 gigabytes. So they'll probably label that as maybe 100 gigabytes, maybe a little bit more. It depends on the software installed. And this model has 6 gigabytes of RAM, rounds down to 5.6 gigabytes. Whenever you get a phone or an iPhone, the capacity listed on the box is not always the same as the capacity that it ships with because the drive has to be formatted for the software and the apps and whatnot. Another feature, and some other Android phones have this as well, is Smart Boost. You click this button and it will close a bunch of apps and reset your RAM. I think it's sort of a placebo effect, to be honest. I haven't really noticed the difference when I've done this on other Android phones. And there's the antivirus system here. You can scan your phone. Let's do a quick scan and see what happens, how many vulnerabilities this thing finds. So it finds USB debugging, PCs can hijack this device, and you can see it's powered by Intel Security. And of course, other Android phones have this as well. This is just something that they're pushing as part of their name, their brand, to make more secure phones. Let's see what happens when I click Fix It, reset to the default value. So this was the Touring phone. I think it's really nice. It's a nice looking phone. The bird design on the back is seriously unique. I haven't seen many phones that use this liquid metal design. Overall, it feels like a really nice package, and the Sir Alan software is very compelling. If they're able to get this device out by the end of the year, like they say they're planning to, and they're able to ship this thing at no cost hardware-wise and $500 a year for the first 2 years for the concierge, I think there's going to be a good number of people who are going to want to buy this phone. When I spoke to the CEO, he said they want to sell 1 million of these things. I think that's a wild dream and it's not going to happen, but there might be some market for those if the phone indeed comes out when they say it will or how it will, that would want a phone because of the concierge. Thank you so much.